Welcome back to Delra Models. So following on from the last video, I'm working on the fairing panels and I'm going to polish them up. So I've made a start sanding them flat, so as you can see between these two, one's still shiny, which I've not done yet, and then one's been flattened. So all of these bits are all flattened as well, so if I just move those over to the side and I'll work on this one to show you how I'm doing it. So what I've got is some variety of sanding pads, and these are Merca pads in various grades, as you can see. So I start off with the 2000, and I've got a tub of water next to me. So very carefully, not putting too much pressure on, I'm just going over it. And that will give it a key, so you can actually see where any areas that need extra work, and hopefully if you do it right it will have a nice even flat finish. So I'll go over it again just so I can see a bit more. So I'm letting the pad do most of the work, but I am putting some pressure in on it to actually get it to cut in. What we should get is an even finish. So I can just wipe it off so I can see where I'm at. So you can see there it's even overall, there's no high spots or anything like that. There's a little bit down here, so I'll work that area a bit more. So I find using the sponges are a lot less aggressive than if you actually use wet and dry paper. So for any areas that I've got, I have got some sheet of 2000 grit wet and dry to the side as well for any areas that need it, but on this panel I don't think it's actually required. So as you can see there, it's that bit that was there, it's pretty much gone now. There's just a little bit on that corner, but you've got to be careful on any edges. You don't want to go through because there's very little on the actual edges, so I'm not going to go too much on there. So that'll do me. So just have a look over. I mean, there's a couple of marks in the actual carbon fibre decal, so I like that bit there. And there's a couple of shadows and things where it's joined up and had to do some work on it previous, so that obviously shows through on the clear coat. So once I've done that one, I move on to the 3000 grit. And because you're using a sponge, it moves with the shape of it. And again, using sandpaper, if I was to use that piece of sandpaper, it's just going to take the top off that and probably the corner of that as well, amongst other areas. But using the sponge manages to avoid that. So onto the 4000 grit now. Like I said before, any areas that require it need might need the other sandpaper. So if you remember on this piece, I had these raised areas, and I flattened them down for the most part. But you can see there's still quite a bit there that needs a bit of work, but it's flat. If you look at it, it's only certain angles that it catches the light, so that's all been flattened down with the sandpaper. So just to explain a little bit further on this part here, where I said I've got those marks. So as I said, I've already flattened down most of it, but it's the same process that I used. So get a little bit of masking tape along the edges, and then it just avoids burning through, because right on the edges is where it's got the least amount of paint, or in this case clear coat. So last thing you want to do is make a mess of the edge. So you can see there the bit that I want to work. So I'm just going to move that over slightly, just so I've actually got those bits. So I've got my 2000 grit wet and dry paper, so I'm just going to get some water on that, and then carefully just work that area. So this is the process that I used to get the bulk of it out. I've not done anything different at all. So keep going with it a little bit at a time, and keep stopping to check where you're at. So once those lumps have gone, then I can stop. Obviously I don't want to go through the clear coat on it, so still a little bit to go, but you can see it's already made a difference, just that little bit of work. And you can see I'm still only using the very edge of the sandpaper. See where it's at? Still a bit to go, but we're getting there. You need to make sure that you use this wet as well. If you use it dry, then it'll be a bit too coarse. So adding the water adds the lubricant to it, so it's not as rough. And you could go down a grade depending on how bad it is, but I prefer to start at 2000, not go any coarser than 2000, because I find that personally I don't want to take that risk. So there you go, those blotches are taken out now. So as I said before, go through the polishing compounds. So same process again. Get my cloth, get some water on it, and get a little bit of polish. I don't need lots on this. So you notice I've moved the masking tape, but that's not always necessary, because again I don't want to use this one and burn through the edge, so just being very careful with it. And let the polish do the work. So you can see those marks come back again, so it needs a little bit more sanding again. So I'm just going to keep repeating that process over and over until I can't see those marks anymore. So you can see there now, after I've done that bit of polishing and sanding, that that's removed it now. So I think I'm happy with that. That's gone now. So that was the process that I used for that piece. So I can finish all that off with the machine. So depending what sort of level finish you want, once you've sanded it back, you can start going through with the micro mesh cloths or sponges or whatever your preference is. So I tend to work through all of the grades. So I've got 3, 6, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, 12,000. So the same process applies. Because it's not a sponge, you've got to use your fingers to guide this, so a little bit extra care to take. So I'm just going to work through all of these grits and then move on from there. So that's where I'm at after the 3,600 grit. So now I'm going to move on to the 4,000. So same process applies. I'm not going to show you the sanding on each level, but I'll just keep coming back and showing you where it's at after each stage. So this is it after the 4,000 stage. So it looks a little bit better, but still a lot of work to go. So next level is 6,000. So there we are after the 6,000 grit. So still a lot of work to go. So next one is the 8,000 that we're going to. So that's the 8,000 done now. So the final one to go is the 12,000. So I'll show you a bit of this on camera, just so you can see as it's coming along. I just do that little bit there, and then wipe it off. It should be giving us a nice smooth surface ready for the polishing stage. So although it doesn't look like there's much difference between the grades, that is perfectly smooth, no imperfections or anything, which is exactly what we want before we go to polish. So I'll finish that off and then we'll move to the polishing stage. So yeah, next step is to polish it up. So there's a couple of methods for doing that. You can do it by hand or you can use a Dremel. So the product that I use for this is the Zero Paints polishing set. So if I get my cloths out, I'll make a start with this. So there's 3 levels: coarse, medium, fine. So I always go coarse to fine and work my way through the grades. So, and again, I use the Zero Paints cloth that comes in that set for doing the polishing. So get a bit on the cloth and then apply it all over. And we'll get this polished up. I have got some water on this cloth as well, because it helps with the polishing process. So doing it by hand, as you can see, takes a while. So the other option, if I get is to use a polishing wheel in the Dremel. So if I just move the camera back a little bit so I've got more space. Sorry, it's a bit shaky on camera, but there we go. So lock that into place, and then I've got different settings on here, so I'll turn it down to the lowest setting, and I can go over that with the polishing wheel. Obviously careful not to snag any edges, you don't want to damage the paint with the actual machine. So let the wheel do the work. And then I've got another cloth that I'll just use just to wipe any excess off. So that's the process for the first part, so you can see it's starting to get shine now. So I'm going to give it a couple of coats of this one, and then I'll show you where it's at with once that's finished with that first coat. So once I've gone over it and actually got the polish bedded in, I'll turn the Dremel back on and keep it at its original speed, which I think is 15, and then you'll see the shine start to come through a lot quicker. So again, you've got to be extra careful doing this, that you don't slip and cause any damage, particularly on the edges. Just want to run away in certain areas. So there we go, there's where I'm at with that one. You can see it's got a nice deep shine starting to come through, and that is still with the, of course I've not gone through the other grades yet, so I will start on the next one. I'll move up to the medium, and then I'll come back in a second. So I'm going to give it the second coat now. So apply it with the cloth as I did before, and then on the Dremel I'll turn it on, turn the speed down, just while I give it its initial cutting in. And then I'll turn it back on at high speed. Okay, so that's the second coat with the medium compound. So you can see it's getting a nice deep shine there. So now I'll move on to the fine. So this is with the fine now, so same process again, although this one, after the last one, tends to be a little bit more difficult to apply because the surface is quite slippy. It doesn't want to actually stay on it, so try and get it worked in with the cloth a bit before putting the machine on it. Just just wipe that bit on the cloth, on the tip of that, just so it's got some on there as well. And then the same process again. Start off with the low speed. And then I'll give it another lot of this polish. You can wipe it on that cloth. If I press the right button so it doesn't speed up, it would help. Definitely don't want it on 28,000. So yeah, that's enough for just putting it on. That edge is a bit difficult to do because it's on that angle. It tends to want to jump, as you've seen. So there you go. That's that final coat done. So I'll just buff it off with this other cloth again. So once I've completely finished, I'll any excess I can wash off with just a bit of water will come off. So you can see there's little bits in there in the recess and things. So that's where I'm at after doing that polishing stage. So the last thing that I'll do on there is I have some Maguire's wax. There's plenty of products out there that you can use. Doesn't have to be the ones that I'm using, but these are the ones that I found that I like, my preference. So for this bit I just do it by hand for the wax. Again, ordinarily I would make sure that I've cleaned any excess polish off before this point, but for the purpose of doing it on the video, I'm just going to go straight in with it. So I know a few people have said that they're scared about using a machine, and I have to say I was apprehensive myself when I first did it, thinking that I was going to damage something, it was going to cause problems, it's going to burn through, and more so if it skips, as you've seen it easily does, it's going to cause damage. But having done this a few times now, I've got a bit of confidence with it that that's not going to happen. Or certainly it's still going to jump, but it's not going to generally damage anything. So it's going to take a lot to actually cause enough damage. So there we are. That's all shined up and polished, ready for the final details and sticking on the bike. So just got a few rivets and things to put in. So there you go. Short video this time, so hopefully you enjoyed it and it might find it useful. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.